Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Scott, one of the editors here at The Sun. I want to welcome to the Sun offices at 491 Dutton Street today the two candidates vying for one 3-year term on the Dracut School Committee. We have the incumbent, Matt Sheehan, and we have the challenger, Michelle McCarthy. We're going to go for about 45 minutes here today. It's not going to be very formal. In fact, it's going to be very informal. Candidates will be given about a minute to respond. I'll give the candidates a chance to ask one another questions, and then they'll get about 1.5 to 2 minutes for a closing statement. So welcome to both of you here today. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. My practice is to start with the incumbent, the question posed to the incumbent, and then we'll follow up with the challenger, okay? I don't cover Dracut, but I've been reading John Collins' stories throughout the morning, and it seems like a big issue out there has been the funding of the schools. There was a recent override. The override was rejected, is my understanding, and Matt, you were the only person on the 5-member school committee to vote against, to not support the override. Let's just talk about the override for a few minutes. Tell me why you assumed that position in voting against, not to support the override.
Well, in the beginning, the board had taken a stance that monies were needed. What that actual figure was, went back and forth. I had proposed an original idea of doing away with the CPC, reissuing that tax.
That being the cultural...
That's correct. Community preservation,
yes.
Which generates approximately $750,000 every year. It automatically comes right off the tax bill of the taxpayers. We would have taken a large amount of that, and the rest of it would have been divided amongst police, fire, DPW, etc. Unfortunately, a majority of the board sought to seek $2.9 million, and it was kind of all or nothing. I think the biggest reason why it failed was the voters wanted options. A couple of years back, we did a override, but it was a debt exclusion for the high school. Something you could see, feel, and touch.
Right.
They couldn't see, feel, and touch $2.9 million, and when...
okay, you're at a minute. Wrap it up.
Okay. The biggest thing for me was one of the supporters of the override asked, put on social media that people should get reverse mortgages, and I thought that was absolutely disgusting.
Okay.
And that's when I really got vocal about the
override. Okay. Michelle, you have more than a minute. You've got about 1.5 minutes to respond to that. What did you think about the way the override was presented, and would you have supported it?
I think there was a lot of holes in the override, to be honest with you. The townsfolk, 72% voted against the override, so I think it's clear that people weren't happy about the override. Voters voted. There was a lot of miscommunication with the override. We weren't sure where the funds were going to be, where they were going to go to. So I think that was a big issue with the override. Would I support an override? I'm not sure. I would need to hear more about it. Maybe a debt exclusion. I just don't think, I think the way it was presented, the $2.9 million, there was a lot of miscommunication about it. So I think, it failed. It was going to fail from the beginning with the amount of money being so huge and so many holes in it.
So you guys actually agree on that, it sounds like.
I guess so.
Okay.
Funds are needed, but $2.9 million override, we need to find another way.
Okay, so I'll start with you. It's a natural follow-up. Now that the override has been rejected, the school department was seeking $3 million. What would you, if you were on the committee, how would you address the budget situation and come up presumably with close to $3 million?
I think that is something that, there's a lot of information in the budget that I'm not privy to at this time. So I think that's something that I would need to learn. That's going to be a learning curve for me, is the budget and where we could exactly get the money, where we could get the funds from. But we need to work with the selectmen. The school committee needs to work with the selectmen to get this. We need to resolve this issue. Our schools need money, but where is it going to come from? I'm excited to learn the process. I'm interested to learn the process. But right now, there's a lot of things about the budget that I'm not 100% about, so I would have to learn that process.
But, the budget document that the superintendent will propose to town meeting in June is a public document.
Yes.
Anyone can go into his office and look at it. You must have some.
I do.
You must have some familiarity with the document to say, okay, I think this is good, this is bad. So tell us just a little bit about that.
There are some questions that I have regarding the budget, but I'm not 100% sure that funds can be moved around. I'm not sure what can be moved around and what can't at this time.
What's your biggest concern about the budget?
What's my biggest?
Yeah.
There's not enough money for the schools.
Well, obviously, but
And the per pupil spending.
Is Dracut spending too much money on salaries? It's spending too much money on ball fields. It's spending too much money on overhead.
We're losing a lot of money to charter schools. Charter schools
I
are
know
really
that
been something that legislative is trying to look at, is trying to cap what we put out for charter schools. But we really are. Our enrollment is, people are sending their children elsewhere, and that's an issue. And I think if we could get those children back, and hopefully with the new high school, with the shuffling and redistricting of schools, we're able to get some of those children back.
Fair enough. Matthew.
The biggest part of the budget is communication, and I think right now, the budget that we put forth, there's a lot of communication in that budget. Communication, I mean, between the superintendent and the acting town manager. The budget we're going to put forward to the town meeting is what I call a stabilized budget. We're going to bring positions back from 2012, and we cut a lot of positions. But the biggest part of that, I want to stress, is communication. It was communication between the superintendent's office, his staff, his business manager and his staff, and the acting town manager and her staff. We got a little bit extra money this year. Is it $3 million? No. Is the funding wrong? Yes. But unfortunately, on the town level, there's nothing we can do about the funding. We can sit there and bang our heads on, till they turn red. It's the state. The state has to fix the funding. The state's sending money to charter schools, to grade level tech. The funding formula is wrong. It needs to be fixed. But until that happens, there's really nothing we can do about it. And the biggest, like I said, the biggest thing is communication.
Okay, you talked in that statement a lot about the state and the funding formula. What is wrong with the funding formula? And do you feel that the community state representative is doing enough to advocate on behalf of Dracut Public Schools? And you'll get the same question.
Well, the funding formula, it's like we spend a little less than $10 million to educate our kids in town. Grade level tech, I believe it's a little over 12. Now, granted, they have bigger machines, cost more money, but at the same time, they still teach English, math, history. They teach the basics of what we do. So the state needs to look at that. How it gets fixed, that's something for the governor and Beacon Hill to take care of. I wouldn't know, how to go about that. They set forth the guidelines, Chapter 70 and things like that. So that's something that they need to work on. Is our state representative working as hard as she can? I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. She's come to a couple of meetings, which I'm very grateful for, and she's discussed, possible monies that are going to come out of, the state to us in Chapter 70 and net school spending and reimbursements. But I think a lot more work needs to be done, and I don't think it's just one person; it's all of them.
Okay, Michelle.
I do think that something needs to be done with Chapter 70 in the way that where the money comes from. I do think that Beacon Hill is aware of the issue, but again, it's something that we can't beat it out of them. We have to work with what we're given. Are we getting enough? Probably not, but we need to find a way to fix it.
Both of you have talked about communication here as being an issue in this budget problem with selectmen, with the acting town manager, maybe to a lesser extent with Colleen Gary. So what's the deal? Do people talk to each other in Dracut, or in the school committee? Are you guys like an island? I mean, it seems to me that you're all in these silos. Is that incorrect? Matt.
Some people say that that's correct. Some people say that there's a rift. There's a secret line on Pleasant Street in town, that one side of government doesn't talk to the other side of government. I don't find that to be correct. During the override, it really raised some hairs. It split the town. I wouldn't say in half, but it put a divide in the town. That's because some things were said that, one, were completely and utterly inaccurate. Personal attacks were given to the former town manager.
I don't believe it.
No, of course not. The members of the Board of Selectmen. There's 5 members on the Board of Selectmen. I have all their cell phone numbers. I'm in contact with all 5 of them. I wouldn't say all the time, but I can reach out to them. Okay. And I feel that, personally, I can work with all 5 members. Again, there was some things said that weren't nice, and there's still some hard feelings.
Michelle?
There's a complete lack of communication between everybody in Dracut.
That's a strong statement.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know what? I would say this is coming from a parent's perspective from the school district.
And you've got a few kids in the school.
I do. I have 2 children,
Okay.
so I'm talking about from a parent's perspective. We don't feel, a lot of people don't feel that we get a lot from the district, that we got a lot of communication from the district. There's so many different sources, social media, we have ConnectEd, there's so many ways for us to get information, but it's completely underutilized.
So who do you blame for that? Do you blame the school committee, or do you blame the
You
administration?
can't point the finger at one person or one committee. I think it's just a general, you know, it's a general divide. There was a divide after the override, and I mean, we need to heal some of these wounds and move forward. And I think communication and everybody being on the same page, and if we're not on the same page, at least agreeing to disagree and moving forward in a positive direction.
Okay, all right. In reading some of John's clips, both of you have said that you'd like to hire more teachers to reduce the student to teacher gap. That requires money. The school department, the town just rejected the override. So how are you both propose? Well, first of all, how many teachers do you think should be hired, and how do you propose to pay for it? We can start with you, Michelle.
Supposed to pay for it. I think that, I mean, we're not able to hire any teachers this year. I'm under the understanding that there's no money for any teachers, additional teachers this year. But I do think a plan needs to be set forward. We need to find ways to find more teachers. We could start with 1 and then go from there. I think that we have some grades that are at about 23 students. You have some that are at 27. If we can get them.
What do you think is adequate?
I think 24 is good.
Okay.
Being in the school so much, I see how difficult it is for 27 students to 1 teacher with a part-time para. That's difficult. It's difficult for teachers to do their job. It's difficult for them to assess students doing the different assessments they have to do. The Fontes and Pinnell, that's a 1-on-1 test that needs to be done for children to assess their reading levels. And that can't be done when you're 1 to 27. That's difficult.
Matthew?
Could we just, before I answer that question, could we get back to the communication thing too, because you said it was another minute to
Oh, I'm sorry, did I not?
We'll skip to what you
Okay,
just said.
that's fine, yeah, go for that, that's fine.
In this the budget that we put forth for town meeting, we are going to hire 4 teachers back. There is 4 teachers in the budget, 3 of them are elementary teachers, specialists, which would be gym, the arts, and music, and the other teacher is going to be a SPED teacher, a special education teacher. So there's 4 positions, teaching positions in the budget going forward. And again, when I look at hiring more staff, it boils back down to communication with the town, and how do we get an adequate budget. And like I said before, I think that is the budget adequate? It might not be, but it's stabilizing. It's going to stabilize the district. We're bringing levels back from 2012. Is it a full complement? No. Will we get there? Someday.
Okay. Now, apparently the superintendent is proposing a budget that will go to town meeting in June that has a 4.83% hike. And it also restores 11 critical need positions. Will you support that budget?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Do you see anything lacking in that budget?
Well, obviously more positions. The biggest thing is positions. We lost almost 50 positions a couple of years ago. Have we brought some of them back? Yes, some of them, a lot of them paraprofessionals. We're getting, like I said, it's going to take time. We're getting there. But, like you just said, we're bringing back 12 positions, 4 of which are teachers. It's just going to take time, but we are going to get there.
Michelle, what do you think of his budget, of the superintendent's proposed budget? And is that something that you can support?
I would support it 100%.
Okay.
I think Matt touched upon the teachers, the hiring back of a few teachers. Currently, elementary students have specials. The specials that they have in school they have them with the actual gym teacher every other week, and with a paraprofessional the other week. So the 4 teachers are going to be an art, music, gym, and computer teacher, I believe, but I could be wrong, are going to come back. They're coming back from 2012. Again, I would support. Mr. Stone is moving the school in a forward direction.
Okay.
I agree with what he's doing 100%.
Now, while we're on the topic of town meeting, Matt, you sort of have to go. You're an elected official. Michelle, do you go to town meeting?
I did not go to town meeting.
Okay.
I usually send my husband to do that. I'm usually home with the children, making sure that they go to baseball,
Okay.
dance. all the other activities.
So your husband has been an active participant in town meeting?
Yes, he has.
All right, let's just talk a little bit about your voting. That has
Yes.
that has come up as an issue early in this campaign.
Yes.
I guess it's come up that you haven't voted in numerous Dracut elections. If you're standing in front of Veterans Park campaigning, and a Dracut resident, comes up and says to you, "How can I vote for you if you don't even vote in town elections?" How do you respond to that?
I would ask them not to judge me in my voting record, to be completely honest with you.
Well, you don't have one.
Exactly, but don't judge me in my lack thereof voting record. I would ask them to judge me as to what I'm saying now, what I'm doing now, what I've done in the community, what I'm doing in the community. I volunteer hundreds of hours in the classroom. I volunteer in Daisy Troops, dance, an active member of the community. If I didn't vote, there's a reason why I didn't vote. It probably would have been a disservice because I don't know that much about town politics. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to pretend to be a politician. I'm just a concerned mother, a concerned citizen who wants to get more involved in the community.
Is there a disconnect there? You say on one hand that you're not involved in town politics and that you're not familiar with town politics, but yet you're running for school committee. Is there a disconnect there?
One would think there is, but
Yeah,
what I've learned, Chris, is there's certain things that if you want to see things done in the schools, if you want to see things done in the district, sometimes you have to step outside of your comfort zone, and you need to get involved and do things like run for school committee.
So you're stepping outside your comfort zone with this?
Completely, Chris.
Okay.
Completely.
All right. Now, did you vote when you lived in Billerica?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now, what do you think of your opponent's lack of participation when it comes time to vote in Dracut? And do you think that's something that voters should be concerned about?
I think if people can't vote, that's unfortunate. As I'm out there going door to door, knocking on doors, there's mixed emotions. Some people, it doesn't bother them. Some people, it bothers them a lot. The veterans, it bothers them a lot.
Veterans?
Veterans, because, they feel that, they fought in wars for us to have the right to vote. Running for public office is not an easy thing. You have to put your name on a ballot. You put your family's name out there. People attack you unfairly. It's not an easy thing. So I applaud anybody that wants to step up to the plate and put their name out there to run for public office. But I think that, just not voting, I have an issue with it. But again,
And what's that issue?
you got to get involved. I think
But
that's my
isn't she
biggest
involved
issue.
though?
She's involved now.
Isn't your opponent, excuse me, I don't mean to refer to you as a she, isn't Michelle involved in many other ways?
Oh, absolutely, as a parent, yeah. But I mean, we could get, and I don't want to be rude at all, but, she was involved at the Brookside a lot. She had to drive by her polling place a couple of times a day.
I'm sorry?
Drive by the polling place a couple of times a day.
Okay.
At the junior high school. It's really not a big issue for me. Like I said, I've talked to a bunch of people in town, and the people have mixed emotions. I applaud Michelle for stepping up to the plate, because like I said, this isn't easy. To put your name out there, to have these pictures taken, have questions asked, it's just not an easy thing.
Okay. Michelle, any response?
My kids only went to the Brookside for 1 year.
That's fine.
Okay. In reading John's clips, I noticed too that there was some anxiety generated because the day you apparently brought in your papers, you came in with a sitting member of the school committee.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Are you friendly with Dan O'Connell? And if you're elected, would you consider yourself to be, working with Dan O'Connell to, get measures through? It's like, for instance, he was a big proponent of the override, and so what's your relationship with Mr. O'Connell, and would you kind of form a block with him and the other supporters in the school committee?
No, I wouldn't form a block. I'm my own person. I'm going to have to listen to everything, and I'm a big girl. I can form my own opinions. But I went to Dan. I had some questions about this whole process. Dan and I have children that are about the same age, and I know Dan from football. So I had asked him, and he said, something you want to do, do it. And he answered my questions, and he took me down there. He was headed back that way, so he said, you know what, I'll head down there with you. And that's about the extent of that.
So is he maybe like a mentor or anything like that, or no?
No.
Just a friend? Fair enough. Let's start with you on this, Michelle. You said earlier that you thought that the superintendent is doing a fine job. It's my understanding that in January the committee voted 5-0 to give him a new contract for 3 more years with a pretty small pay hike. What did you think of that move? Tell us why you think he's doing such a good job.
I think that's a great move to offer him a contract. He's moving us forward. He's moving us in the right direction. He was dealt a really bad card after Mullins, after Scott. There was a lot of shuffle, and there was a lot of that's
I
where.
forgot that there were two there.
Yes, there was two. There was three with it. I mean, we had
Technically
three.
Yeah.
Yes, within a small period of time. So I do think he's doing a great job. I mean, he's in this for the long haul, and it shows. His redistricting plan, it was very thorough. I think it would have been foolish for us not to get a contract with him and have him on long term.
What do you see as his biggest advantage that he brings to the table?
His biggest advantage. He seems to know. He seems to know what he's talking about. He seems to know. What he seems to know. He seems to care. I should say that. He seems to care. He seems vested. He doesn't seem like he wants this as his, wants to be something just on his.
Okay. Do you see anything that needs improvement when it comes to the superintendent?
The communication, but I don't think it's just the superintendent. I think it's just across the board communication. We need.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you go to school committee meetings? Have you been going to school committee meetings to familiarize yourself
Yes,
with them?
I have.
Okay. So talk about the decision to re-up him for another 3 years, and then talk about advantages and disadvantages.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was a no-brainer for the committee. Stephen humbly took a 1.63% increase. That's what everybody got. All the unions got that. I've always been a big public supporter of Stephen Stone. When I first got on the board, a former board ran Elena Spindle out of town. We got Spencer Mullen for 18 months, which was a great gentleman. Did some good things the 18 months that he was here. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I personally went to Elaine's house when he put his resignation in, because I was the chairman at the time, and I asked Elaine if she would humbly come back. She did. We had Stacy Scott, great guy, amazing vision. We couldn't afford the vision. As I said previously, I was very outspoken about Stephen Stone. I made a motion that was supported 5-0 to hire Stephen Stone without process. He was a finalist in the town of Barica, and I didn't want to lose Stephen Stone. The reason why I didn't want to lose Stephen Stone is he was our special education director here for 5 years, working under Elena Spindle and Dr. Mullen at the time for the 18 months. I knew Stephen could hit the ground running. Wouldn't take a back step, would just attack, go do what we needed him to do, because we were a broken ship. Some might think we still are a broken ship, but Stephen's fixing it. Stephen's fixed a lot of it.
Okay, quickly, what do you see as his biggest advantage, and on the flip side, the disadvantage?
I think the biggest advantage is that he was here for 5 years as our sped director. He knew how the town operated, how it worked. I guess the biggest disadvantage, unfortunately, is the budget. Stephen has a vision for the town, and it's just going to cost. Everything revolves around money. So the budget's the biggest disadvantage.
I'm not sure that's an answer, but I'll let that one go. In reading John's clips again, I've noticed that the transportation costs have seemed to be a recurring issue in Dracut. What can be done to bring that budget buster under control and to make it affordable? Michelle?
Isn't that the million-dollar question? I know that the transportation was up for bid, and it did come back. It was a bit higher, I believe, than anticipated. I know that Mr. Stone has a plan for the child care no longer being if your child attends daycare outside of the school that they attend, they will be charged $200. I know that's something that needs to be done. We need to do it. There's not enough money for us to continue to do what we've been doing in the past. But as for transportation, I mean, inflation, the price of everything is going up. So unfortunately, transportation is one of those things as well.
What about user fees? Does Dracut institute user fees where kids who ride the bus,
Yes.
Have to pay for that?
Yes. Once they hit seventh grade, they are assessed a fee to take the bus from that point on.
Okay.
And also there will be a fee the fee will be given to the daycares, but if your child attends a daycare after school, they will be assessed a fee as well.
Well, would you support if someone put forth a proposal to institute, a transportation fee for kids in the elementary schools? Would you support that?
I think it's illegal, as far as I know. You
Oh,
can't
okay.
charge.
I
You can't charge children before 7th grade.
Oh, okay. All right, Matt, talk about the transportation costs and what you would do to rein those in.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, transportation is a hot topic. It always has been. I made a motion, it was seconded. We eliminated one bus. That was at a cost of, a bus runs in between $45,000 to $46,000 a year. We did that with the new bid specs that just came back. They are a little higher, but some of the buses we're looking for smaller bus size. With the redistricting, we're going to make smaller routes, which can hopefully eliminate a couple of buses. Because again, 45 to 46 grand a year, it adds up per bus. Unfortunately, fuel's a big thing, and it's transportation is an ongoing battle. But hopefully, with the redistricting, it's not going to happen overnight. But I think after time, I think we might see a cost savings there.
Okay.
Might.
All right, you mentioned redistricting, and I know that has been a hot topic out there. Let's start with you, Michelle.
Can I just go back to the
absolutely.
bus issue?
Yes.
I know, another issue with the buses are a lot of the, after the redistricting is set forward, currently there's a lot of, the buses aren't utilized to a bunch, so there's a lot of empty buses. If you sit and you'll watch about 20 buses come in and out of the school complex. That's a lot of buses, and some of them are at half capacity. So I think that we really need to utilize where our bus stops are, and we need to use that to our advantage.
Right, and that was part of the redistricting, and like I said, part of the bid spec was smaller buses. Because if you sit on Lakeview Avenue, sometimes you can see 10 kids on a bus. But there are different bus runs too that people don't realize.
Right.
But it's part of the bid spec.
All right. Let's talk about redistricting for a minute. How do you think the district has handled that? It seems that it's upset some people. Redistricting, that's one of those, third rails. You kind of either love it or you don't. Do you support the plan that was put forward? Do you think it was well thought out? And do you see any way that it could have been maybe rolled out in a smoother way?
I don't think Mr. Stone could have thought about that plan any more than he did. I'm sure he had a lot of sleepless nights because that's not an easy plan. You're going to upset a lot of people. I mean, a lot of children are moving to other schools. You have the implementation of a brand new school. You have two completely different school communities coming together in that one school, and that's going to be the largest school in the district. That's huge. I think communication, at this point, that's all we can do is just keep talking about it to make sure that parents are okay with it, that they know what's going to happen. I know that there will be counselors on site for children if they're having any distress or any issues, which of course it's going to happen. But communication, I've said it before, the parents are okay with it, the children are going to be okay with it. The children are going to follow off their parents' cues. If the parents are comfortable with what's going to happen, then the children will be okay. Redistricting is it's a huge issue. It's something that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. You have children from the Campbell that are going to be moved to a much smaller school, Greenmont. You have children that are at the Greenmont that are going to be one of 600 students. That's huge. That's a lot, but I think it's a great plan. I do, and I'm glad that Mr. Stone finally pulled the Band-Aid off and did what needed to be done.
Matt?
It's been a discussion, it's been a topic for a long time. Ever since I got on the board, redistricting came up every year. With Stephen Zone as the superintendent, we're finally doing it. Are there going to be some bumps in the road? Of course. It's a brand new plan. I think Stephen put a great plan together with his administration. We're going to align the curriculum. Hopefully we're going to eliminate some buses, like I said before, maybe a cost savings down the road. It's going to take some time. I think the communication is out there through Facebook, Twitter, public, the social media. Stephen has his own TV show that he does. Like Michelle said, could we use Connect Ed messages? It is getting out there. Some people are uncomfortable with change. Change is never good. But I think in the long run, this is going to be good for the children of Dracut, because as of right now, they go to 4 buildings. Now they're going to go to 3. They're going to go from elementary school to a junior high school to a high school. It's going to take some time. I think one of the biggest things that came out of redistricting was the whole daycare issue. We are, as a board and as administration, currently looking into providing before and after school daycare through the town. It would be provided by an outside partner, whether it be the Boys and Girls Club, CTI, YMCA. It's still in the planning stages, but it's an issue that we're looking at. We're going to address it. The superintendent put a survey out there, over 500 responses, all good. And you know, we're looking at that. We're going to make a plan to make this daycare issue work.
Fair enough. A big story over the past 6 months to a year has been the ruckus caused by Robert Moulton, the teacher. How do you feel, Michelle, the school department handled the Robert Moulton issue? Do you think that was handled well?
I think that it was handled in the best way that they possibly could. I know the parents students were upset about it, but I mean, I don't know too much about the Robert Moulton issue other than the fact that he was let go of. And
well, he was let go for conduct on becoming
yes.
a school teacher. And,
yes.
And you know, I think we all have some idea of what what it was he allegedly said or didn't say. But
if it needed to be done, it needed to be done. And you know, I stand behind the decision that was made. You know.
Okay. Matt.
Well, I guess what I can comment on is very brief. School committee members don't deal with personnel issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's solely dealt with the school administration, superintendent, and his staff. He was fired for conduct on becoming a teacher. It's unfortunate, but I support the superintendent wholeheartedly.
Okay, fair enough. Matt, earlier you said that right now the school department, that's a fairly strong statement. Where is it most broken? Where is the fracture the most severe, and how do you propose to fix it? And then you can respond, Michelle.
Well, I get, we had 3 superintendents over 4 years. That's not an easy thing. Thankfully, like I said earlier, Mrs. Espindel came back. We couldn't afford Stacy's vision. He was a great guy. I supported him. He was a great guy. He had a great vision for the school district. We just didn't have the cash.
Do you think you really would have stayed if you could have offered him more money?
Well, I think if he had more money to work with, I think he would have stayed.
Okay.
Would I would have thrown more money at him personally to stay? No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
There's a big difference there.
Absolutely. And I think, it just goes to the character of Stephen Stone. 1.63%. I mean, you report other communities. These superintendents and CEOs get a huge raise. What everybody else did, that's all he wanted. That's all he requested. Like I said before, it's the budget. But
you keep saying it's the budget, but as an observer of Dracut, I think someone could come away saying, well, okay, 3 superintendents in how many years? 3 superintendents in 4 years.
4, yeah.
Maybe the superintendents couldn't work with the school committee. Maybe the school committee's nuts, and it's a reflection of the school committee. Is that valid?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a valid point. When I got elected 6 years ago, a school committee. Some of the members, there's 5 members on the board, but a majority of the members ran Elena Spindle out of town. Unfortunately, she got sick, and the outcome it wasn't good. She was a great lady. She had over 10 years of service to the town of Dracut. Put the health issues aside, maybe she's still the superintendent today. And then we Spencer Mullen. Some favors were done. There's nothing else I can say about that. It's just unfortunate. But now, we're here. Stephen Stone is here. He's doing a great job. And there is I guess there's a public perception that, you went through all of this, but we're here. Right? We can keep harping on the past. That's all well and good, but the past isn't going to change. We need to keep moving forward.
No, the past isn't going to change, but lessons can be learned from the past.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not sure if that can happen in Dracut. Talk about the broken ship. Where do you see this school department floundering most, and how would you right the ship, Michelle?
Where do I see it floundering most? To say that is kind of sad. Where do I see it floundering most? I don't really see it floundering. We have great educators. Great administrators. From that perspective, I don't see us floundering. I think that we have a great school system. It's just, I think a lot of negative things have happened the past year.
Would you agree with Matt's characterization that the school department is a broken ship, or at least a part of it is?
Maybe a part of it is, but a portion of it is great. I'd say 75% of it is amazing. I've had nothing but, a positive experience in the Dracut school systems. I in those classrooms, and I see educators doing great things. I see administrators doing great things. I see principals that love what they do. and and they're passionate about what they do. And I wish that other people could see that, because we have a great thing in Dracut, and it's just moving forward and making it even greater. I think that's going to be the challenge.
Earlier you talked about charter schools, and I think you might have mentioned the tech.
No.
Well, I think you
I
mentioned the
mentioned
tech
that, yeah, correct.
as being a competitor and siphoning off students that you would prefer to keep in Dracut. Let's just talk about that for a minute. How do you view charter schools, and are charter schools, and let's put the tech in there too. Do you view those other educational learning centers as competitors to the Dracut School Department? And if you could find a way to keep some of those students in Dracut, how would you keep those students in Dracut?
I think once the high school's done, I think we'll have a great shot at getting some of those students back. I know that there's been a lot of shuffle with, the freshman academy being at the junior high, the students having to walk back and forth, the shuffle of not having a much smaller cafeteria. I'm hoping once the high school project is done that we'll get some of those students back. For the charter schools, it's an option. It's an option parents are utilizing. Their children are getting more money. They're getting more money to go to those schools. It's an option. It's an option that they have, and some parents, that's where they choose to send their children. I went to a technical high school. I had a great experience there. There are certain children that are going to thrive at a technical high school, and there's certain children that aren't. And it's finding the right fit, and they have the option, and so be it if they use it.
In terms of the tech, there's a candidate from Dracut who's running the tech school, and he's been talking about, we got to get more Dracut kids to the tech. I quoted him saying that. How do you? So the same question is to you, but how do you balance that? You're trying to keep the best and brightest students in Dracut, but then you got this other guy saying, we got to get more of these kids to the tech.
When it comes to charter schools are they're marketing machines. They get a lot of money, and they market their schools. Right now, Superintendent Stone and his staff are putting together a marketing plan. They're going into the junior high schools, the St. Louis, Saging Dock, and talking to the 7th graders about getting them to come to Dracut Public Schools. Personally, I think we should be working with Greater Lowell Tech. We send some of our students there. It's almost like a brother-sister type of high school setup. I think that there are services that we might be able to provide that Greater Lowell can't, that they outsource, or vice versa. But to say that we need, that they need more Dracut kids to go to their school, it depends on the student and what they want to do in life. Do they want to be an auto mechanic? Excellent program. They want to be a chef? Has an excellent program. They want to be an engineer? We're going to have an excellent program at Dracut High School. So it all depends on what path the student wants to take. But I think once the high school comes online, I think we're going to get an influx of students coming back to the high school.
Interesting. Okay, we're starting to near the end, so what I'd like to do is just give each of you an opportunity to ask a few questions of one another, maybe just a couple. Michelle, we started with Matt, so we'll start with you on this. You have an opportunity to ask the incumbent a couple of questions, and then he will do the same with you.
I wasn't prepared for questions. Let's go back to maybe what I asked you before. What do you think the biggest issue is for the parents regarding our school system?
Well, I guess I keep hearing it's communication. But, as I said before, Superintendent Stone has his own TV show on public access. We are on, Superintendent Stone is on just about every piece of social media you can. Facebook, Twitter, just about everything. He does do the connected messages. We're putting anything and everything on our on the school website. Where the school can find the internet, very approachable. Our information is right there. I think even our phone numbers are on there. So I hear it's communication. I think we're working towards that. But I guess communication. So, but like I said, we're really working towards just getting rid of the whole notion that there is no communication. I just don't see that.
Is that a satisfactory response?
I do, but I just see it's being worked on. I get that, but an issue is there was a meeting, there was a principals forum the other night, and I guess it was low in attendance, but they went ahead and they decided that they were going to pick principal candidates for both schools. I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Sheehan can shed some light on that issue, but they went ahead and only one school was notified. The two other elementary schools in the district weren't notified that their possible principal candidate could be selected. I'm sure that there's more to the story, but again, that's a lack of communication because only one school was notified about this meeting. You know, there's Facebook, there's other outlets. You know, if something had went out on Twitter, if something had went out on social media, more parents might have attended.
Matt, are you familiar with this principal's meeting?
I was there.
What happened there?
I was there. It was at the Campbell, and unfortunately, it was low in attendance.
And why is that?
I don't know. It was a very nice day out. Maybe everybody was at the park. I'm not sure.
What time of day was the meeting?
6.
Okay.
6 o'clock. And it was advertised to the Campbell area parents.
And what was the purpose of the meeting? I'm a little bit vague on.
Parents, what it was it was an open forum to come and meet two possible principal candidates, because Debbie Knifka, great lady, over 30 years of service at the Campbell, she's retiring.
Okay. So are these the two finalists?
Yes.
Okay.
And one of them, the other school is the Inglesby, what's going to be the Inglesby Elementary School now.
Oh, okay.
And so 2 candidates came in, and
For the Campbell.
For the Campbell. And what they got to do is they got to give their sales pitch, so to speak.
Sure.
You know, why do I want to come to Dracut, and why should you guys pick me?
Okay.
And then the parents, like I said, there was about 30, give or take, and great questions. They were able to ask the principal candidate great questions.
Okay.
And candidate was chosen for the Campbell, and
That night?
I think the next day.
Okay.
I don't think it was that night.
That was chosen by the superintendent.
Superintendent.
Right?
It's the
Okay.
superintendent's
Yes,
decision.
okay.
You know, and again, it's a personnel matter. It has nothing to do with the school committee.
Uh-huh.
The superintendent picked the gentleman from, I believe, Salem. Forgive me, I forget his name. But the other candidate was so good that he was a finalist in another town for principal's job. Superintendent took it upon himself, and he hired that gentleman for the Inglesby.
Which was a vacant position?
Yes.
It was a position that needs to be filled because it's the new elementary
Okay.
school. Yes.
Okay.
And again, it's solely up to the superintendent. We
Okay.
have no say in that. And it was advertised, unfortunately, it was advertised in one area, but there was just, a lot of people just didn't show up.
So, but your beef is what? That
It wasn't advertised as an Inglesby
Okay.
principal candidate forum. It was advertised as just a Campbell forum. So Greenmont and Brookside parents weren't notified about that.
I have the utmost faith in our superintendent. I think he made the right choices. Looking at their bios, I think they're going to do a good job.
all right. Do you have another question?
No, I'm glad to hear that.
You're good. Okay, Matt, this is your chance.
Um,
Well, if I was keeping score today, I think you guys agree on more things than you disagree, which I suppose is fine. But so go ahead. You got a question?
I guess I keep hearing that more parents should be involved in the school committee. Do you think that you need to have children in the school system in order to be on the school committee?
No, I don't think you have to have children. I mean, Matt, you don't have children in the district, correct?
Correct.
So I don't think you should have to have children, but it brings you a different perspective. Volunteering in those classrooms, speaking to other parents, seeing what their issues are, being at so many school activities, it definitely gives me another perspective as to what is going on in our schools. So I think that it's definitely a benefit to have a mom of younger children on the school committee.
Do you have children, Matt?
I do not.
Okay.
No, we have a little fluffy dog that's actually getting his hair cut right now.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, but but I hear that a lot. That you should have parents on the school committee, and I guess just 2 points. We have a school complex named after Dr. Daoulas, great guy. Never married, never had any kids in the school system. We've had several school committee members.
He lived in his office, right? At least
Yeah,
that's
so pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
We've had several school committee members that have never had children and served on the board. Before I got started, I volunteered in some of the schools. That's how I figured out, what was going on in the schools. And I'm not saying that Mrs. McCarthy said this at all, but I find it a little disheartening that that's out there. That you should have kids because some of us are just not.
Well, let's cut to the quick here. She's basing her candidacy, in large part, just on this short meeting, that you're a parent and that you have kids in the school department, and you think that would be refreshing to have someone on that committee. Well, what about the other 3 members? Do they have kids?
Mrs. Murphy has kids in the school system, and Mr. O'Connell and Mr. Wilkie have kids in the school system.
Okay, so
And Dr. McNamara has educated every kid, their parents, and their grandparents in the school system.
okay,
Yes.
so you're basing
Betsy
That's a big part of your campaign.
Yes, Betsy
correct?
has older children in the system,
All right.
and Dan and Joe are both dads. Moms have a different.
Right. So what you're
no.
saying, I'll buy that. So what you're saying is that's kind of embellished. That it really doesn't matter whether you have kids or not. That's what you're saying.
I think it all depends on what you put into it and what your outlook is. You know, I'm here to represent. I want to represent the people of Dracut the best way I can. And the biggest thing is making sure that we have we give the kids the best education we can as a town. And I don't think you know, having children is a prerequisite to being a good school board member.
Michelle,
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
well,
but-
elaborate.
I mean, I think that it gives me a different perspective. It gives me a view as to exactly what's going on in the schools. I'm 100% vested. This is for the children of our community. That's very important to me. You know, I want to represent that population. I want to represent the population of parents that want to see change in our community, that want to move our school system forward. So, I mean, I think it's to my benefit that I do volunteer so much and that I am able to speak to so many parents.
And you're going to vote on May 5th?
Of course I am.
Okay. All right, let's wrap it up. I'll give you each 2 minutes, thereabouts. Go ahead. And
Thanks, Matt.
Michelle, you can go first.
All right. Where's my closing? There it is. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I hope that everybody will remember me on May 5th. I hope to bring a new perspective to the school committee. I understand what our priorities are. I understand what parents' priorities are. I want to be the new voice in the school committee. I want to see change. I want to see, you know, it's an exciting time in Dracut. We have the new high school. We have the new elementary school, 2 new principals. I want to see us move forward. I want to see us move forward in a positive direction. Get over the override issues and move forward. Bring the boards together and just move forward in a positive direction. And I hope that, you know, the town of Dracut will have faith in me on May 5th and vote for me. Thank you.
You have another minute. You want to use it?
I'll do what's in the best interest of the children and the families in this community, and that's all I'm going to say.
Very good, Michelle. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in today. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on May 5th.
Thank you.
Matt Sheehan, take it
Thank
away.
you. Thank you to you, Mr. Scott, for this debate. Thank you to
Call me
Mrs.
Chris. That's my father.
All right,
Thank you.
Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Thanks to Mrs. McCarthy.
Thank you, Matt.
I think this is our second go around.
Yeah, it's not too bad, right?
Absolutely. You know, over the last 2 terms as one of your representatives on the school committee, I've worked tirelessly to make sure that we're all doing the best we can to make sure that every child in Dracut gets the best education they can. Some of my proudest moments were creating full-day kindergarten at no charge, asking Mrs. Espindle to return as the interim superintendent, and as chairman, overseeing the successful process and vote for a renovated high school, and the hiring of Stephen Stone, our current superintendent. The main reason why I was outspoken about the $2.9 million override because it was all or nothing, and unfortunately we got nothing. From the beginning, I wanted to give the voters a choice. My idea would have brought in an extra $750,000 a year, with the bulk coming to the school. With an economy still in flux and a new town manager just being hired, I feel that we need experience on the school committee. And I feel my proven experience, my record, and my independence is what is needed. So on May 5th, I ask the voters to vote for Matthew Sheehan. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Good luck,
Thank you
Matt,
very
and
much.
good luck, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and that wraps it up for this afternoon. The Sun is sponsoring another debate on Thursday night, April 24th at Harmony Hall at what time? 6 or 6:30 with the candidates for selection. You guys aren't participating in that, are you?
No.
So that will be, I believe, streamed live on lowellsun.com, and you can certainly read about it later that evening on lowellsun.com and read about it in Friday's edition of the newspaper.
That
Thank
might
you.
be a fun one.